Hello everyone, my name's Cliff and welcome back to my channel. This is Cliff's Dark Gems. And if you're new here, I really hope you enjoy the video. And tonight, on this hot, steamy South African summer night, we're going to do some Stephen King. And my top 10 Stephen King movie adaptations of all time. Stay tuned. Okay everyone, it's bloody hot, Hopper State in the evening, wearing this blue, fugly, sun blue shirt. Thought it might keep me cool, blue ice sun thing. Man, he's fugly. But anyway, yeah, it's very hot, so if I wipe the sweat off my brow often, just know that I'm kind of struggling in the heat. And yeah, just some rules first of all. Number one, this is my personal opinion. There are going to be some omissions, some glaring omissions from my list. There are about, I don't know, 60, 70 Stephen King adaptations from the books and short stories that he's written. And I'd count it down to 10. So there are going to be some glaring omissions. This is my personal opinion. And second of all, I'm not including TV series, and I'm not including kind of mini-series. Otherwise, probably The Stand would be here, the original The Stand, definitely not the movie, as well as Storm of the Century, which is one of my favourite adaptations. But I'm not including them, it's only movies. And I also just want to give a shout out to my friend Nikhil from Esteem, because he's a composer, a music composer specialising in horror adaptations and movie adaptations. So I think he might enjoy this video, but he might be shocked that I don't focus on the music scores and stuff like that. Sorry mate, that's not going to happen, but there are some wonderful movies here with wonderful scores that really go with the movie, and so I'll point them out. So yeah, let's continue. Okay, just a couple of special mentions. First of all, we're going to go with Cat's Eye, and this is from 1985, and yeah, it is a sort of 3 stories told in one. It's all connected by a cat who's on a mission to find a little girl in distress, and this little girl happens to be Drew Barrymore, who is kind of being tormented by this little goblin creature, and the cat is out to find her, because in the cat's dreams, I can't remember, in his head, it can hear the little girl calling for help. But don't be fooled. Yeah, the third story is a little bit kind of yeah, maybe young, but it's still fun. But the first 2 are taken from Night Shift, and that is Quitters Inc. and The Ledge, and those are 2 really fun stories in this movie. And Quitters Inc. is just like kind of how not to give up smoking, kind of scary, thriller, kind of scary. And then The Ledge, which is one of my, well, it's actually my favourite out of the lot, and it's tense and it's terrifying. So yeah, I'm not going to tell you about the stories, special mentions, but that is Cat's Eye. Okay, next up we have The Mist. This might be on people's lists, that's okay. And it's about this mist that envelops a supermarket where these people in this town are trapped. And it's tense, it's thrilling, very suspenseful, it's very much a human drama, what happens inside the supermarket. And these deadly creatures in the mist, like kind of Lovecraftian creatures that will tear you apart. And it's a lot of fun. And the interesting thing is that Stephen King said that the ending to The Mist, something that he wished he could have wrote, he actually wished he wrote that, it's better than his own ending. I don't know, they're both pretty horrifying, but yeah, watch The Mist. Okay everyone, let's get to the list. And in 10th position we have Dr. Sleep, which is kind of the sequel to The Shining. And yeah, this is an awesome movie. It's also a very awesome, underrated novel. I thought it was fantastic. And there is a major player that reappears in Dr. Sleep from The Shining, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. But I want to focus on the awesome villains, because these villains are freaking terrifying. in my opinion. And they're basically traveling gypsies, they're psychic vampires, called the True Knot. And they're led by this absolutely terrifying character called, I just want to check here quickly, Rose the Hat. That's it, Rose the Hat. And yeah, they kidnap kids. They kidnap the kids. They torture and they kill them. And they suck out their shining, their psychic essence, if you will. And they torture them because it just makes essence that much more potent. And that's what keeps them young, and that's what keeps them going. So yeah, they're despicable villains, and there's one scene in particular in this movie and in the book that'll make your blood run cold. It's just that bad. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. If you watch the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Another interesting aspect about this book and the movie. Let's talk about the movie. That's what we're supposed to be doing, right? Is that Stephen King, and it's common knowledge that he did not like the Shining, Stanley Kubrick version. In fact, he hated the way that the director adapted the book. And the director for Dr. Sleep was terrified that this was going to be the same case for him. Because in his mind he envisioned that he had to kind of do a sequel to please both kind of The Shining, Stanley Kubrick, to kind of nod to that, as well as to please Stephen King. And at the final screening, they actually had a private shoot together in a movie theatre, and the director was very anxious because, yeah, he tried to please both. And Stephen King gave the nod of approval and actually said something in the lines of, this movie redeems, that's the word he used, redeems Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining. So yeah, it is fantastic. I'm not going to bash on The Shining, Stanley Kubrick much, because it might appear later on this list. Okay everyone, before we get into 9th position, yeah, we've turned on the fan, and I'm sorry if it's making a noise, but it's freaking hot. And both my wife and I are struggling. It's one room where we don't have a fan, so sorry. Okay, in 9th position is Pet Sematary, 1984. Now I know this movie has mixed reviews. Some say it's just the characters not well realized, that it's not a great adaptation, although I would say it's kind of faithful. But if you don't know the story, it's about the Gages, his doctor and his family, and they moved to this town. And they moved next to a busy highway. And this highway is notorious because trucks travel very fast on this highway, and family pets often suffer the consequence. So yeah, they move into this house, and next door up the hill is the Pet Cemetery, which is spelled out by the children, that's why it seems to be spelled wrong. And that's where they bury their beloved pets that have been flattened by the trucks moving at top speed down the highway. And this family happens to own a black cat. And yeah, there's something more than the Pet Cemetery. There's something above the cemetery. You go to other ground, which is ancient Indian burial ground. And yeah, in the words of Judd, who's their neighbor, he's one of my favorite characters. Sometimes dead is better. Sometimes dead is better. Yeah, I love this movie. It's creepy. I love the character of Gage. I love the character of Judd. And yeah, it has its moments of real nastiness, real violence, and real terror. So as old as it is, I haven't seen the remake at all. I still enjoy it. Not as good as the book, in my opinion, but still very enjoyable if you like horror. So that is Pet Sematary, 1984. Okay, in 8th position we got Act Pupil, taken from different seasons. And I think both the movie and the book is very underrated. And it's very dark and it's very disturbing. Very, very, very bleak. And basically it's about the student. It's kind of a student, gets good grades, he's great at sport and everything. And he discovers that in his neighborhood, I'm not sure if it's his direct neighbor, but he discovers that this elderly gentleman in the neighborhood is a Nazi war criminal hiding out. And he's a curious lad, so he goes and he blackmails this Nazi war criminal because he wants to hear about his experiences in the war, everything, in the Nazi concentration camps. And yeah, this film centers around this pair, the student and the war criminal kind of becomes a teacher. And it's the center of the story, and it's bleak and it's freaking dark. And it talks about how they become transformed as a result of this relationship, and they bring out the worst in each other, and the dark side. And this Nazi war criminal wants to kind of escape from his sins. He's trying to push it away, but by talking about them again, they come up to the forefront. Yeah, so I'm not going to say much more about it than that, but yeah, I've heard critics say that it's too dark, it's got no redeeming qualities. I say it's rubbish. It's very interesting. It examines the nature of darkness and the nature of evil, and really, there's nothing good that can come of this relationship anyway. But yeah, give it a go. I know that the movie holds back a little bit on the book. The book is worse, but yeah, read the book, read the novella, and watch the movie. That is Apt Pupil. Okay, next up we got 1408 from the short story collection Everything's Eventual. And this is an awesome, fun, scary movie starring John Cusack in the lead role and Samuel L. Jackson. Now yeah, it's about this paranormal investigator who travels around America, and he stays in all the haunted hotels. He stays in the rooms that are supposedly haunted, and his whole thing is to debunk ghosts, to disprove that the paranormal exists. He's a total cynic, he's a total skeptic, until he moves into room 1408 of the Dolphin Hotel in New York. And yeah, he goes there, and Samuel L. Jackson is the manager of the hotel and tries his best to dissuade him, shows him evidence of all the deaths in that particular room, and he doesn't listen, and he goes into the room. And that's all I'm going to say about that for now. Yeah, this is just a tense, unhinged at times, psychological horror, and yeah, it's kind of warped. I loved it, and it's also got other elements like his daughter. I won't say anything more about that. And then there's also this stupid Carpenter song that gets stuck into my head. My wife says I should not sing because it might not be a good idea, but I'm going to try anyway. And if it doesn't work, then I'll just cut it. Right, people? Yeah. We've only just begun to live, white lace and promises. Okay, I'm going to stop singing. Yeah, I can't reach those notes, people. But it is so awesome, this part. I don't think it's not really a spoiler. He plays the radio and then he turns it off and it keeps coming on again, even when he pulls out the damn plug. I love this movie. It's a lot of fun. It's not taken too seriously. It is scary in parts, but it's kind of unhinged. So yeah, that's 1408. Okay, at number 6 we have Misery. Now this could be a lot higher on people's lists, that's fine. It is about Paul Sheldon, and he's a world famous writer of kind of romance. And he's traveling to his publisher, I think it is, with his latest book. And he has a car crash in a very kind of appropriately empty part of the world, part of the country, where there's no one around. And he gets rescued by an ex-nurse, Annie Wilkes. And yeah. And she promises to take care of him, to look after him. Unfortunately for him, she is a complete and utter nut job and psychopath, and also his biggest fan, #1 fan. And also, in this book that he's just written, his latest, that's going to be a bestseller, he has killed off her favourite character, which makes her kind of cross. And so she makes him rewrite the book. Can't kill off my favourite character. And makes him stay with her. Now, what makes this movie and the book so incredibly well done is the fact that, if you think about the setting, most of it is shot in one room. Most of it is very rarely goes out of that room. And it's just between those two characters. Or there are some other characters, but it's mainly between those two characters. So to create that tension, and just that building of tension, suspense, in that limited setting, just sets this movie, and in fact the book, apart. And it's really grounded in reality. There's nothing supernatural here. You just got a bit of a nutjob nurse. And I'm not going to talk about this scene, I don't want to spoil anything, but if you haven't read the book, it's worse. Okay, the next one will be a surprise. Coming in the first position is Creepshow, a horror anthology, presented as a movie, created by Stephen King and George Romero, based on the EC horror comics of the 50s. This is hilarious fun. It's horrific, it's hilarious, and it doesn't kind of go into the comedy to the point where you don't feel scared. So the horror runs throughout, the fear runs throughout, which makes it a very kind of interesting piece. And it's very creepy, and it's delicious. It's dark humor that runs throughout. And yeah, don't be fooled. Like I said, it's genuinely scary, genuinely terrifying. And there's two stories that stand out to me. And the first one is, oh man, what's it called? Something to Tide You Over. Starring Leslie Nielsen from Airplane. Don't Call Me Shirley. Right? That Leslie Nielsen. And yeah, he plays a role of a really horrible husband. Well, he's kind of being cheated on, but he wants to kill the wife and lover in a very creative way. And I think my favourite line from the story is, "How long can you hold your breath? How long can you hold your breath?" Right? That's a very good line. You can see some of the images up here. Okay, the second one is also really, really good. It is called The Lonesome Death of Geordie Verrell. Yeah. And it's basically Stephen King. And he's kind of starring role covered in meteor shit. Right? And the story is badly acted. Sorry, Stephen King, cuck actor. But it's so much fun. It's so bad that it's good. And really, you can't go wrong with the series, people. And here's another thing. The little boy that you see in the beginning, and he's sent upstairs after his dad confiscates the comics, and he's sent upstairs and shut in his room. He's got a voodoo doll. That is Joe Hill, Stephen King's son. Just thought you'd like to know. Okay, let's get serious, people. The next movie is Green Mile. It's a deeply moving, powerful, emotional roller coaster of a ride about a man who's convicted of a terrible crime and he's on death row. And this is a human drama, and it will absolutely take you through the ringer. You will experience all the emotions. I cried my eyes out in some parts of it. In times of absolute horror, one character, Percy, I frickin' hate you, you bastard. And there's times where it's strangely uplifting. There's a little bit of sort of supernatural stuff going on, but it doesn't like kind of interfere with the story too much. If you've seen the movie, you know what I mean. If you've read the book, you know what I mean. That's just a beautiful story. And I think it's also is where score comes in, musical score. Because his next four movies are kind of more high production and kind of where the movie actually kind of fits in with the atmosphere of the story. But yeah, it's beautiful. The Green Mile. Okay, next up we got Stand By Me in my third position. Beautiful, beautiful coming of age film. And it's about four boys who go off in search of a body next to a train track. And yeah, it just perfectly kind of evokes that time period when boys could be boys, without kind of smartphones, and yeah, kind of go off and sneak a cigarette together without the parents there, or share naughty magazines, kind of swear together. There's a time where you're just kind of free as a boy, child, not just boys, girls. But yeah, it's a special movie, incredibly well acted, and the camaraderie and the friendship that develops. And I've got to say also some of the one-liners as well really appeal to me. I don't know if I want to say this on camera because my wonderful viewers, it might affect the algorithm. You know, sick balls, not so bad. But I'm going to say it anyway. So, one of the heroes, one of the younger boys, and his bullies in this book, despicable bullies, and the younger boy gets a gun, and he points it at this bully, and the bully says to him, "You're going to shoot all of us?" And he says, "No, just you." And then he says to him, "Suck my fat one, you cheap dime store hood." I love that. It's very good. That kind of moved me to tears, partly. Just special. Okay, so people, I was going back and forth between my number 1 and number 2. I was unable to make a decision, and then I just finally did. My number 2, Stephen King movie adaptation, is The Shining. Now, Stephen King hated this adaptation. Doesn't make it a bad horror movie. What he hated was that it did not adapt the book, The Shining. It did not have the heart and soul of the book, but it is still a brilliant horror movie. And I judge it according to that. One of the biggest differences is that in the book, when Jack goes to the hotel, the Overlook Hotel, with his family, he's not completely crazy. He's sane. He's trying to be a family member. He's going to write again, trying to do good for his family. He's made mistakes in the past, and he's trying to, it's about him as a human being. When Jack Nicholson goes to the Overlook, from the beginning, he looks Jack Nicholson crazy. He looks kind of crazy, and that's not how Stephen King envisioned him to be at the beginning. And that's just one of many things. I'm not going to talk about the ending because that'll spoil it, but yeah, they're just completely different. But there's no doubting that Stanley Kubrick is a genius in terms of cinematography, in terms of just making everything you look at terrifying and beautiful at the same time. And the score just works with the atmosphere of the film, and every scene that you're looking at with the music coming in. It's a masterpiece in my opinion. And I know people hate it, Stephen King fans hate it, but I love both for different reasons. I love The Shining, the book, and I love the movie. If you have different opinion, state in the comments down below. Okay, everyone, there can be only one, and this is probably either number one or two of my favorite movies of all time anyway, and that is A Shawshank Redemption. This is just powerful, moving, a tale of friendship under the most extreme circumstances, a tale of love and friendship and hope and redemption in the worst possible circumstances, Shawshank Prison, and that it can be found there. And the interesting thing about this, if you really pay attention to the movie, yes, there is a lot of violence, a lot of, sorry about the joke, but dropping a soap and kind of rape and violence with the inmates, and corruption and the other stuff going on. But if you really pay attention to the film, it focuses in on the characters, and in particular on Red and on Andy, and the relationship that they build. And you become kind of not just part of them, but you kind of dropped into the situation where you become part of the prison life, and you actually invest in a lot of those characters. You invest in that old man. I can't remember what his name is. I'm not going to talk about him. Actually, I don't want to spoil the movie. You have to watch the movie. But every single part of that movie for me, including the score, when he plays that record, every single part of that movie for me almost brings me to tears and is a masterpiece. It's just so special. And I think I've watched it more often in pretty much every other movie. Might be one or two others I've watched more, but like, it is just, it moves me, it shakes me, and it's just so profound, just so beautifully acted. And yeah, there can be only one, and that is the Shawshank Redemption. Okay, Ryan, I'm kind of hot and bothered still, even with the fan. I hope it's not annoying you too much. But yeah, that was my list. Let me know down in the comments what your favorites are. And if it's Carrie, it's fine. If it's some other movie, it's fine. But let me know, and let's have a conversation. And yeah, really hope you're all doing well. Most of you up in the northern hemisphere, it's nice and cool. It's only going to get worse down here. And when January and February arrive, you'll probably see me just basking in sweat. I mean, like literally, maybe with my shirt off. Maybe, stay tuned for that. But yeah, thanks so much for being here. Take care of yourselves, keep those pages turning, and cheers.